Hi friends, this is the first video from Vocab Builder series. So in this series I'll be uploading videos on especially for learning vocabulary, such that I will simplify your learning. So you watch these videos and learn the words properly, right? So I'm sure that after watching this video, whatever vocabulary I have taught in that particular video will get etched into your memory, right? So follow these videos carefully. Now, as I told you, vocab learning is a lifetime process. There is no end to it. As vocabulary is endless, there is no end to learning vocabulary also. I have been into teaching from past 6 years, and all these years I have been learning vocabulary constantly. So whenever I see a word, most of the times there will be known words to me, but then at times I will be encountering new words. In such cases, what I do is I will learn those words with their usage. I'll properly see their etymology also. So how they are derived, so what is the purpose of that word, all these things I will take into consideration, because as a teacher I need to do this, but as a student you need not do all these things. But I suggest you watch these videos along with your favorite book, like maybe Barron's 800 or Magush words, all these words. Along with that, I hope these videos will be very useful, because I'll be teaching you through 8 techniques, not just one technique. So from my experience, I have segregated this vocabulary into 8 parts. What I observed is not all words are derived from root words. Majority of the people think that all words are having their roots at some place, right? So every word is having a root word, but that opinion is completely wrong. Why? Because you see, a few words are derived from root words, they will have certain roots, whereas a few words are derived from famous characters from epics. Famous epics, like for Indians it is Ramayana, Mahabharata, for Greeks it is Homer's Iliad. So we will have multiple different epics, right? So every epic will have a famous characters, right, in them. So their characters are attributed to new words, right? So new words are coined out of those characters or qualities. So there are certain words which comes from famous characters in epics. Next is Greek origin and Latin origin. Many of the words we get from Greek and Latin origins. Suppose if you see mother, in German we call it as matter, but coming to Indian Hindi we call as ma, and English mother, Telugu amma. So the same word, it got translated, it got converted into multiple forms, right? So we'll have Greek origins and Latin origins as well. Apart from that, famous novels. These novelists will be there, right? So famous novelists are also crucial in coining some new words. What happens is, whenever a writer like Shakespeare writes a new novel and it gets popular, there will be some catchy words. These novelists will coin some new words just to gain the attention of the people, of their readers. So these famous novels will be having some catchy words or some popular words which gain popularity in masses. So those words will take their place in the dictionaries. So that's how we get a few words. So here are some examples. Next is real life characters. So in our real life, people will be of different kinds and different natures, different habits, right? Different qualities. So certain people who are having high impressions in the society, right, who are able to impinge some strong impressions, their qualities and characters will be termed as a word, vocabulary word, right? So another way is popular sayings or usages. Some words, some words will gain popularity in masses. Like for example, in recent times there is a word called Nari Shakti in India. So that gained lot of popularity among masses. So that finally reached into Hindi dictionary. That's how a word which reaches masses and people start using it. So those kind of popular sayings or popular usages will also will also be coined as a new vocabulary, right? Next, distorted forms. Distorted forms means it can be there by their meaning or the form, anything it can be. Like distorted form means there will be a certain name for it, okay, let it be A. So after some time or from place to place, this A will get changed into some other alphabet, B, something like that. So the actual meaning, the pronunciation, all these things will get distorted, right? So as an example, I told you matter, mother, ma, so all these are the distorted forms, right? So that way also a few words are formed. So in this video we'll be discussing a few words like that. So first we will start with root words. Our first word is utopia. Utopia means a place where everything is perfect and everyone is happy, complete, full of bliss and happiness, right? So do you think, do we have such kind of ideal places? In reality, no. So there is no such place existing, right? So utopia means a place of perfect bliss. So how it got derived is Uto means out means not, okay? OU means not, and topos means place. Topos is famously used in topology, right? So topology is having a root word topos. Topos means place. That means a land of nowhere is called utopia, right? So utopia means perfect happiness or perfect bliss, a place with perfect happiness. The exact opposite for utopia is dystopia. Dystopia means a place where everything is miserable, full of sorrow and full of pessimistic, right? So that is called dystopia, right? Our next word is euphemism. Euphemism has its roots in this one. Eu means well, femi means speak. So euphemism means speaking well of something. So that means if you have a rude word, a word which is rude, and I want to give out a polished sense to it, I want to sound it in a much polished way and sophisticated way, so that is called euphemism. For example, if I want to say, if I say someone a blind person, so that will be a rude to him, right? That will be being rude to him. Rather, I call him in a euphemistic way as physically challenged. Or you say some psychic persons will be there, right, who are not mentally fit. So to tell them in a euphemistic way, I say mentally retarded, right? And so example, some more examples like washrooms. So all these are euphemistic way of expressing a meaning, right? So that is called euphemism. So polite way of expressing something is called euphemism, right? Next word is eulogy. Eu means well, logos means speak. So speaking well, that means praising someone. So eulogy means you praise someone, that is called eulogy. Next word is euphony. Here we have two root words again. Eu means well, you know, phone means sound. Telephone has its roots in the phone itself. Phone means sound. That means sweet sound or well sounding is called euphony. So pleasant sound is called euphony, right? Our next word is euphoria. Euphoria, again, eu is well. So euphoria means euphoria is a feeling, well feeling. So euphoria is nothing but a strong feeling which lasts for a short duration. For example, if you're watching a football match and your famous player hits the goal, then you will be in a state of euphoria. That means excitement. So excitement is euphoria is the strongest form of excitement. In English, mind you, your way of expression is more important, right? The way you use your adjectives is very important. So if your essay is having good adjectives and to convey your exact mood properly, you have to use the particular word only, right? If you say happiness, that is a milder way of expressing. Blissful is a little bit better one. And you, to say extremely happy or extremely blissful or extremely exuberant, you will say euphoria. Euphoria means a strong feeling that lasts for a short duration. So you have to know exactly to use which word in which occasion, right? So every word will convey your exact feeling. So always your essay ratings or AVA should include these adjectives, proper adjectives, that too, okay? So euphoria means a strong feeling which lasts for a short duration. Next, eugenics. Eugenics means eu means well, genome means race. So you're trying for a improvement of your race. So eugenics, like eugenics can be a study about improving your race. For example, you know about crossing of dogs, right? You cross breeds. Dogs, actually breeding of dogs and these dogs is a good business. So what they do is they will search for a good breed and get them crossed, so that you will get a baby out of good breed. Similarly, vegetables, fruits, these people will research on which breed to cross, so that you get out a good product. So this is called eugenics. So study of something which improves your race is called eugenics, right? Next, evangelist. You see here, evangelist, it is actually ev, but then its root word is not you, it is you. You means well. Here, you means well. Angelus means messenger. So some messenger who comes to deliver good message is called an evangelist. But recent times this evangelist has taken a negative connotation because of its usage. Its attribution is completely changed. Now earlier times evangelist means a person or a messenger who delivers a good message is called an evangelist. But now people has attributed this word to person who forces others to change their religion. So evangelist means someone who travels to different places and tries to persuade people to convert into Christianity. So person converting people into Christianity is called as evangelist right now at present time. Okay. Now anthology. Here the root words are anthos and logos. Anthos means flowers. Anthos means flowers. Logos means gathering or study. We gather something and study, right? That is called logos. So studying of flowers or gathering of flowers is called anthology, which is wrong. So don't get confused with anthology. Anthology means it's not a study of flowers. It is actually study and gathering of poetry, art, songs, etc. So what is the difference here? What is the relation between flowers and art? So art is a form of a sensitive thing, right? Art is very sensitive like flower. So these poets and all attributed anthology, anthos to these songs or writings or poems. Anything that is artistic, that is attributed to a flower. That's why anthology means a set of stories, poems, songs, etc. A set of means collection of these stories, poems, songs, etc. by different people. So that is anthology. Now what is anthropology? Anthro means again man. Anthro means man. So anthro means man and morphos is a form. And so this is different. Anthro means man. So study about mankind is called anthropology. What is anthropomorphic? Anthropomorphic means the belief that animals and objects are equal or having the same feelings as that of human beings. Here the belief that all animals, objects have the same feelings and quality of a human, right? The belief that God can appear in a human or animal form. When animal and a human are equal, God can be in any of these things, right? So it's like almost everyone is comparable to humans. Now next word is hieroglyphics. Hieros means sacred, glyph means carvings. So you know graphs, right? So graphs has the root word as glyph. So hieroglyph means sacred carvings. So earlier times there were some hieroglyphs on caves, right? Egyptian hieroglyphs. So hieroglyphic means a system of writing that uses pictures, pictography. So hieroglyphics means a system of writing that uses pictures to represent words. Our next word is epidemic. So here we have three root words, that is epi and pan. Epi means upon. Okay, n means within, pan means all across. See here, now you have to know the difference between what is endemic, what is pandemic, what is epidemic. Now what is epidemic? Epi means upon, demos means people. Democracy has its root word in demos means people. So epidemic means upon people, something which falls upon people suddenly, that is called epidemic. For example, there are some seasonal diseases, right, like plague, flu, all these are called epidemics because all of a sudden they fall upon the humans, right? All of a sudden they start increasing, all of a sudden it happens in a large scale, that is called epidemic. What is endemic? Endemic means within. N means within, demos means people, within people. So anything which is restrained in a particular place, anything which is common only to that particular place or group or race is called endemic. Some people, if you take for example some people's skin will be very black, they will have a lot of melanin, so that is a disorder for these people at certain place, so that is called endemic, right? Some people have continuous flu, right? So but still they will survive with that flu. So that the flu has become an endemic for that particular group of people, right? That is common to that area. That is endemic. Endemic means something which happens only at one place and that lasts for a longer duration, right? That is endemic. What is pandemic? Pandemic means all over. So pandemic means all over people. That means some pandemic starts growing slowly and reaches almost all. That means it has its influence across large vast area. That is pandemic. If you draw it in a set form, here it will be endemic, here it will be epidemic, and vast area will be pandemic. So this is how they have their influences across areas, right? Now, so for this video we are done with the root words. Now we will go on to some other category. We will take second category. So here we will discuss words that are derived from the characters in famous epics. So first word is Gordian knot. So Gordian knot is anything that is a serious problem or an intricate problem or something that is really difficult to solve is called a Gordian knot. Gordian knot. Now we use it, the usage will be something like cut the Gordian knot or untie the Gordian knot. That means you are solving the problem which others were unable to solve. That is, you are cutting the Gordian knot or untying the Gordian knot. So getting 340 out of 340 is a kind of cutting the Gordian knot. Okay. Now here the derivation, there is a basic story from which this Gordian knot is derived. Here the king Gordius. So these names are not really required to memorize. Just you remember, you memorize this story. Just if you are able to recall this story as and when you see this word, that means this word will last in your memory for a longer duration, right? Just think about the story. That's it. There is a Gordian King Gordius. So he once tied extremely and intricate means complicated knot to his chariot, and now he said if someone who unties this knot will rule the Asia, and there comes the Alexander. He slashed that knot with his sword, and maybe that's the reason why he conquered the whole of Asia. This is one saying in Greeks, right? So that's why this we got this Gordian knot. That's how we got this, right? Now laconic. Laconic means using only few words to say something. This is actually a positive connotation, it's not negative. Speaking very little here doesn't show that he is arrogant, but rather it shows his quality or innate quality of being very less talkative, right? Laconic is a positive term. If someone who speaks very less, but then whatever he speaks less conveys a huge meaning, that is called being laconic. Now there is a derivation for this. There is a story. The story is, so there is a place called there is a certain place in Greece, those people are called Laconians. They are very brave. So and they are very brave and they speak to the point. Okay, they speak very less and they are very succinct. Now what happens is their enemy, you again need not memorize the names, Athenian. So these Laconians has an enemy. Once the enemy comes to the Laconians place and she threatens them that if these Laconians are attacked, or if the enemy comes to this Laconians place, and once they come to this Laconians place, they will destroy everything. Okay, they will destroy each and everything in the Laconians place, right? That's what she threatened. Now these Laconians will answer just with one word, if. So there is a huge meaning behind this if. When she threatened them, they just said if. That means it conveys that they are very sure that they are not going to allow their enemy into this territory. That means they are saying we will see how you will enter, right? So they are saying that all this may happen if you enter, but we are not going to let you enter in our territory. That's the meaning of if. Got it, right? So they mean to say that they're going to give a strong opposition to their enemy, and at any cost they are not going to let her step into their territory. All this destruction may happen only if the enemy is allowed to step into the territory, but then these Laconians are very sure that they're going to drive her back, right? Now next word is maudlin. Maudlin means being very sensitive, being very emotional. So even if you cause a little slightest disturbance, they will start crying. So that kind of quality is called maudlin. So maudlin is derived from a biblical character. There is one lady called Mary Magdalene. So her representations in the Bible, if you see the pictures, she will be having red eyes, swollen, and she will be crying. So her character is basically, she is very sensitive, always sad, with a swollen eyes and face. So her quality is attributed to this word maudlin. Maudlin is derived from Mary Magdalene, right? So maudlin means being over sensitive and being over expressional, emotional, right? Now our next word is nemesis. Nemesis means enemy, not an ordinary enemy, an enemy who is very strong and obviously difficult to defeat him. So a very strong enemy is called nemesis. So whenever you want to say something like a simple enemy, maybe he may be stronger or he may be weaker. If you want to say that kind of meaning, then use enemy. But if you want to say the opponent is much more stronger and not possible to defeat him, then we say nemesis, right? So this nemesis, how you got this word is, Greek goddess Nemesis was a goddess of retribution. Retribution means taking revenge. So she punished, all these are not required. So Nemesis is a goddess of retribution. So in Greek mythology, there are different gods like Zeus, sun god, Zeus, love god, Cupid. Like that, for retribution also there is a god called Nemesis. So since that is for retribution, nemesis means your enemy. On whom will you retribute? On whom will you take revenge? You obviously take your revenge on the enemy, right? So goddess of revenge is nemesis. So nemesis means your strong enemy, right? Our next word is pander. See here, pander, it has some extra thing to tell you here. How our philosophers or writers will be in a position to change the meaning and completely give a different dimension to the meaning. See here, pander. If you take our right now, pander, if a pander as a noun, it means pimp, supplier of girls or supplier of prostitutes is called a pimp. So pander is a very negative word. It conveys a completely different word. But if you go to its origin, so Pandarus is a person. He is a respectable mythical Greek hero. See here, it is clearly saying that he is a mythical hero and he is very respectable. So this Pandarus, what he does is he helps the it's according to Iliad's Homer's Iliad, he helps some persons in the Trojan War, right? And he is a respectable person. So here you see he led the Lycians. So he helps certain people in the Trojan War. So he basically is a helper. Maybe he might have provided them food or provided them some facilities, and some way he helped other persons, right? So he is Pandarus. Now pander has taken a worse turn. So pander means if you are pandering to someone, okay? Pander as a verb means you will do anything what others want to please them or to gain their favor. You will go to any extent and you do any kind of wrong things, right? So that is called pandering. So pandering to somebody means you are completely submissive and you are submitted to them and you are willing to do anything or go to any extent just to satisfy your to satisfy their ego, right? So that is called pander. And pander as a noun means a pimp, is a supplier of girls, right? Now this distortion happened just because of famous writers like Shakespeare, Boccaccio, Italian writer Boccaccio. So these persons attributed a negative shade to this pander word. So they started using this pander in a negative connotation way. So they attributed this negative sense and then it became popularized. So that's how this distortion happened. So this pander has both some reality, some character from epic as well as a distortion, right? Now our next word is saturnine. Saturnine means something very gloomy and very pessimistic and very sad, okay, very gloomy and very dark. So if you are having a saturnine expression, that means you are giving out a very vague and very dull kind of expression, right? So actually saturnine word is derived from the planet Saturn. Planet Saturn is a goddess of agriculture. There's a favorable planet for agriculture. But then that again Saturnine has gained a negative meaning just because we have one more form of Saturn, looking at the Saturn in a different angle. So as you know, Saturn is very far from Sun, so obviously there won't be any sunlight there, and thus a planet looks very dark, right? So that's why they have ascribed a negative shade to this word. Saturnine means very dull and hopeless or pessimistic. So that's how Saturnine has got a negative meaning. Now our next word is tantalize. Tantalize means torturing someone. So if your situation is tantalizing, that means you are in a very uncertain state and you are in a very troubled situation. You are in troubled water, right? So that means tantalizing situation means very painful and troubled situation. So there is some story behind this word. Earlier, the god Tantalus was a fifth columnist. The meaning of fifth columnist is a person being your friend, he helps your enemy. A person acting as a spy to your enemy is called a fifth columnist. That means he is betraying you. He stays with you, he stays at your back, he suggests you, but then finally he helps your enemy secretly. That kind of person is called fifth columnist. Now, the god Tantalus, even gods do mistake, right? Even if you see your mythology, even gods do lot of mistakes. So here this god called Tantalus was acting as a fifth columnist in Greek mythology. So the sun god Zeus has given him some different kind of punishment. The punishment is, you can see in the picture, he is the Tantalus god. The Zeus drenches him into water, and the water exactly touches his chin. Till here water will be there, and there will be hanging fruits above his head. So this god will have very tasty and colorful fruits just above his head, and there will be drinkable water, which is very pure water to drink, just below his chin. So he will be having both food and water. Whenever he wants, he can take them. But then when he feel hungry, he lifts his head upwards to eat the fruits. The fruits start going backwards, and when he feel thirsty, he tries to drink the water will start receding. So the person situation, there will be many instances, right, where we practically experience this kind of situation. We'll be having everything in hand reach, but then when you are trying to reach them, they will go away, right? So that kind of situation is called tantalizing situation and a painful situation, right? So now we will start with another set of words, right? Now we will look into words which are derived from popular songs or usages. So popular songs or usages, as I told you, a few words will gain popularity among masses. Those words will become so famous that they will finally end up in a dictionary. Now, one such word is jingoism. Jingoism means extreme patriotism or extreme self-confident. Like whatever a person believes, right? Maybe his belief system or his own country or his own race, he treats them with utmost priority. So he feels that others are very less to him, and the beliefs whichever he believes, and his beliefs are much stronger and much powerful and much trustworthy than others. So that kind of feeling is called jingoism, and the person who follows this jingoism kind of thing is called a jingo. So there is a basic story how this word got derived. During 1877, a war between British and the Russia, the British army used to be at high spirits. They are very active, enthusiastic, and they love their country to maximum extent. Okay, their country is their first priority. So those kind of people, looking at them itself, the enemy country will get scared looking at their high spirits, right? That kind of an army is there with the British. Now there is a popular singer who describes this army and their success, and she will coin a word called jingo. Now the people started using this word jingo to represent these British soldiers, right? So everywhere this British army was called as jingo. That's how this word got derived. And here are the few lines the writer has given. She says, We don't want to fight, but by Jingo, if we do, we have got the ships, we have got the men, we have got the money too, right? So this phrase has become so famous that the Jingo was finally attributed to this British soldiers, right? Now here, as I told you, Nari Shakti, you see here, this word has also reached into Hindi dictionary, because India's #1 word that trended a lot during 2018, right? Now second word is bathos. Bathos means maybe it's in a writing, or it's in a play, or somewhere where you see sudden degradation of the play. Suppose if you are watching a play of maybe a 3 hours play, first 2 hours will be fantastic, it will be the peak, the graph will be high, making your adrenaline rush. So the graph will be upwards, suddenly it started declining, okay? So that kind of thing is called bathos. So sudden degradation of a quality is called bathos. It can be in writings, it can be pictures, it can be anywhere, it can be even performance, right? Stage performances, or even sudden degradation of a morale also, morals, anything. Now the story behind this is Alexander Pope. He is a British poet, and he is basically known for his bad works on contemporary writers. So he actually does, he is not an actual writer, but he is a parodying writer. So he just parodies contemporarily famous writers. So there is a pope who wants to degrade this Alexander Pope. So he wants to give a bad name for this person, a bad name to express that all his writings are very bad. So what he does is he keeps the word bathos. That means these contemporary writers are there, right? Their writings are very good. Suddenly when this person enters into the scene, when he is parodying these works, their famous works, this parody sees a drastic fall of the quality or the content, okay, quality of the content. So that's why this bathos is referred to this person's writing. That's how bathos means sudden degradation of the quality. Now we will learn a few words that were made famous by novels. So there are, as I told you, some writers will coin new words in their novels just to entice their readers, okay? Now one such word is quixote. Quixote, masochism, okay? So what happens is they coin new words, or they keep some names. Those names will get famous, and the names, that name will become a vocabulary word. For example, quixotic. Quixotic is a famous word. Quixotic means being being very unrealistic, okay? So practically not possible. So in a good way again. So quixotic means if a person is being quixotic, he is behaving in an unrealistic way. That means he thinks very impractical. For example, a person might think that the people who is living around him, all people should be having equal social status, which is actually not possible in a practical sense, because an economy to grow, it has to be in a triangular shape, right? There will be some person at the apex, some persons will be at the bottom. Only when people having different responsibilities, the economy will move forward, right? If everyone does the same thing, same job, then how the economy will move forward? For example, there should be some scavengers to clean the roads, there should be some construction workers to construct the buildings. So if everyone is a owner, then who will do the construction work? So a society is into a triangular shape, where everyone will have their own duties, their own social status, everything, right? An egalitarian society is not in reality is not possible. So a person who is being a quixotic, so he thinks this way, that every person in a society is equal, so everyone should have a social status of equal level, but in reality that is not possible. So thinking that kind of way is called quixotic. But if you think like this, a person is there and he want to protect his country from an enemy country, so he goes and attacks single-handedly, he destroys the whole country's army. So here he is not being quixotic, instead he is being just a daydreamer. Why? Because here he is doing a wrong things, right? He is not doing anything right. Thinking or being impractical in a wrong way is not quixotic. So where did this quixotic come? There is a Spanish novelist called Cervantes. He is very unsuccessful till he attained the age of 57. At the age of 57, his novel Don Quixote became very famous, and the hero of the novel is Don Quixote. In that, the hero is a quixotic person. That means he always sits and thinks about all impractical things, right? Like making the society egalitarian, these kind of good deeds, instead of these kind of good deeds which are actually impractical, so he'll be thinking those kind of things. So that quixotic word is derived from his character Don Quixote. Now, masochism. Masochism means sadistic nature. That means a person torturing himself. He enjoys pain by injuring pain to himself, right? So a person who is a sadistic in nature is called masochism, right? Masochism is a character quality. So this quality is the first time introduced in a novel. This Leopold is a right. This person is an Australian novelist. He introduced this abnormality in his novel. So in this novel, the abnormality got famous, and that masochism is being used. Right, so that's how this became a vocabulary. Now we will learn few words that are from Greek origin. Example, our first word is sybaritic. Sybaritic means a lover of luxury, a person who loves luxury. He doesn't do any work, but then he loves to enjoy his lavish life, and he is a pleasure monger. He is actually into pleasure seeking things. Okay, so he is into sensual pleasures. So he eats, drinks, womanizer. So all these things, all these characters are qualities of a sybarite. So there is a history for this. This in Greece, what happened is earlier times, people of elite group in Greece, they migrated to certain cities in the Greece. One such city is called Sybaris. In this city, all pleasure mongers, all sybarites, all luxury lovers used to settle down in this city. So Sybaris, that's how sybarite was derived from this Sybaris. So sybarite is the one who enjoys pleasure, who loves pleasurable life. Okay. Now our next word is foliage. Folium means leaf in Greece. In Greece, folium means leaf. Foliage means dark green leaves of a plant. That is called foliage, right? Now, our next word is glossary. Glossary means a list of special words describing or explaining the meanings of something which is previously mentioned. Like suppose if you take a book, if you see the glossary will actually be at the end of the book, explaining the meanings of certain words which are already mentioned in the previous pages. So glossa means tongue. In Greek word, glossa means tongue. Tongue means speak out or explain something. So explaining or giving the meanings of something is called glossary. So next word is epistemology. Epistemology, you see here, there is a word called epi, right? Don't get confused with this epi. This epi is nowhere related to the epi word in epidemic. In epidemic, we have seen that epi means upon. So upon people, epidemic means upon people. Here this epi is nowhere related to the epi in epidemic. Here this epistemology is a direct derivation from episteme. Episteme is a Greek word. Meaning of episteme means knowledge. So epistemology means the part of philosophy that deals with how we know things, how firmly we know things. So it is actually kind of research about the known things. We are researching about how we know certain things. That is called epistemology. Now our next word is symposium. Symposium means a meeting in which all well-known people or any people who are very scholars on a particular subject, they assemble and discuss on the topic or on that particular subject. That kind of meeting is called symposium. The derivation is in Greece, earlier times. See here, syn means together, we know this. From synchronous also means together. Syn, Greek word, so syn means together. Pino is a drink. So in Greece earlier times, so what happens is they drink together. They drink together and discuss on important topics or on topics whichever those scholars are well known, right? Having knowledge. So that kind of a discussion along with the drink, that is called symposium. So that's how we got this symposium here. Right. Now we will see a few words from Latin origin, direct from Latin origin. You see here vernacular. Vernacular means it is a language used by common people. So vernacular means it is not highly sophisticated language. Okay, in a society, if you take a society, if you see doctors, they will have their own terminology, right? That is called jargon. So technical jargon. So every profession will have their own jargon. So vernacular means it is quite opposite to jargon. So vernacular means it's a simple language which is used by common people. So that is called vernacular. So vernacular can also have a second meaning, a style of buildings, music, etc. that is suitable for ordinary people. That is also called vernacular. Now, vernaculus means native. So something which is very native is called vernacular. So that is vernaculus. Vernacular is derived from vernaculus. Now, plagiarism. Plagiarism means copying. So plagiarism means copying someone's ideas and showing them such that those are your own ideas. That means you're copying someone's brainchild, right? So here in Latin, plagium means kidnap. So kidnapping someone's brainchild is called plagiarism. So copying ideas and showcasing that they are your own, that is called plagiarism. Now, discursive. Discursive means discussing many things or many ideas on facts, etc., without always having a clear purpose. That is called discursive. So if you are discussing about a topic, and then sometimes you tend to move here and there, right? You tend to digress the topic. You go off the topic and come back again. So that happens at times, right? So that is called discursive. Being discursive means you're going aimlessly or unnecessarily digressing the topic. So this word is derived from a Latin word discurro. Discurro means to and fro. So if your talks or if your discussion is going to and fro, that is called discursive, right? Now we will discuss distorted forms. So even some vocabulary, they get distorted, right? They will be having complete different sense at the point of their origin, but as time goes by, they change their meaning, their forms, everything, right? So it can be any of these changes. Now one such example is philanderer. You see here, if you go by the root words here, phila means love, ander means man. So if you go by exact meaning, phila means love, ander means man. A man lover is called a philanderer. So see here, at earlier times, a person who loves a man, it can be man or a woman, maybe in general sense it is a very positive word. In earlier times, during its origin, philanderer means a man lover. That means he is very kind hearted, and he loves, maybe it may be that kind of word, or it can be a negative sense, like man lover means he is prejudiced and he is completely a supporter of man. Maybe it can be that word also. But then at recent times, philanderer is a completely negative word. Philanderer means a flirt, a person who pass his time or doesn't have any serious relationships. He maintain multiple relations with women. So he is called a philanderer. So a man who has sex with many women without intending to have any serious relationships is a philanderer. The synonym is playboy. But during its origin, philanderer is a positive term. See here, earlier times philanderer meant to be man lover, but now it got a negative connotation. That's how a few words gets distorted as the time goes by. So for now we are done with almost 35 vocabulary. So if you learn this way, how if you are so this playlist is also about dissecting a word. So we will see how exactly a word came, the different techniques to memorize the words, right? So I'll be uploading second video as well. Thank you.